Hey guys, welcome to ISTE Day 4.
Enfin, ISTE.
The cartridge in as long as that tip's good. Should last 5 cartridges.
Perfect.
Alright, so
Awesome.
box.
Thank you.
That's the only thing. You know, a friend of mine came yesterday and you guys ran out.
Yeah. You want to take a box for your friend?
I recognize you from yesterday. I
I need the last 4 digits of your
Social security number.
Alright. Thank you for being such fans of our brand.
Oh my goodness, we.
The minor is the middle.
30 to your home apart to a brand new school with a brand new school. There's 6 or 8 in the school. But you'll be totally cool. You'll be I also have mine from home that I bring every day. You'll be having mine from home. Yeah. Then when we go home, we need to present all the things we learned. And so we're always looking for innovative ways to get people to.
That is so good.
We did a thing with Post-its and nobody wanted to do it.
This is great. Yeah. And it helps us as a company too because the board of my computer has to stay on.
Look at that. You put it on your SD card.
So cool.
Yes, you're not tying up your computer time that way, so it's a nose take. And this is
Is it possible that you can upgrade a hardwire? You know, like literally computer, cable, printer, or can it be I want it connected. That's important the way that our district is set up. Can it print connected to a computer? And can one computer be connected? Animation, but you can do without animation. And you see when you answer correctly, this left turns into if I am turning this red, you need to push as hard as possible, answering as fast as possible.
Ready to pass. So everyone, what I've been telling you, this is classroom. It's free. You don't need a particular board, a particular computer. You can use it on whatever device you have. It's just a website-based interactive program. This booth is free. There's nothing to pay for it. There's no trial period. You just go to classroom.com, sign yourself up with your username and password. The kids sign up, and then when you go to the internet site, I can come to this will be how
So it was a pretty long extended library home. They technically bought the book. So it's been an amazing opportunity to work with these primary sources and to work with my colleagues back home and work with colleagues all over. And this is Kathy Castro, and you want to tell us about where you are?
I'm a library media specialist in Ouray, Colorado, which is south of Grand Junction. It's the Switzerland of America, so if you haven't been there, you should come visit us. And it's beautiful. We're in a pre-K-12 school, and so I've loved it. I've been there for 2 years because I've been able to do some of these lessons across the whole range of grades. And so whatever grade you may be in, we can cover it.
Look closely at, and we're going to fill out this online form. Now we're going to do the filling out of the form up here, and then when you analyze your own piece, you're going to fill it out on your device. Okay? So let's look closely at this image.
Different columns, and you can notice on your online form there's a little question mark at the top of
one of the logistics of doing an activity like this with 150 people was that we limited it to 3 pieces. So when you did this with kids, you'll have more pieces. But you'll have to consider what pieces bring out a good conversation, because sometimes you'll have some dud pieces that just have ocean in them, or might not have anything interesting. So again, that's one. Yes?
The location of the people.
Okay.
How they're scattered from both up into the land.
Okay. So we've got people all over. Anything significant about those people that you noticed?
They look like they're invading.
Okay, what makes you say that? This is one of my sentences that I say over and over again. What makes you say that? What makes you say that?
They're invading because.
Good, very good. Yeah. You're a quick learner.
I can't say the word. Position.
Okay, their stance or how they're standing.
Right, throughout the map. So it looks as if they're leaving the boats and then kind of invading as they assemble on the land.
Okay, so her reflection, her thought is that this looks like an invasion. Does someone come up with a different idea of what they think is going on in this vacation and you're moving from place to place? You want to plant crops and leave them. Yeah.
So I'd like to disagree.
to a historical unit, but embedded in it, and as the librarian piece, I collaborate with my teachers. I'm trying to teach them the 21st standards and critical thinking, the inquiry process that way. And if I just taught them that, but there was no other connections, they don't get as into it. And you're kind of getting 2 birds with 1 stone. My kids, I found some of my teachers to get them in the library and to co-teach with me. Before they'll actually co-teach, they kind of just give me their kids and we do
Not a goal to be technically placed, but a seed to be planted. So hopefully today we've planted some seeds of ideas about how you can
audience, and so on. If you're not familiar with the Inspire, or the Ignite format rather, we have 11 presenters who each have exactly 5 minutes and 20 slides, images, etc., that are going to auto-advance. So it makes for a very fun and fast-paced afternoon. So without any further ado, our first presenter is Carl Hooker.
So I get a bad lead off for this lineup. This is great. My name is Carl Hooker, and I'm the Director of Innovation and Digital Learning at Eanes ISTE. It's a one-to-one school district in Austin, Texas. But before I was that, I was actually a classroom teacher. Aw, look at these first graders, aren't they amazing? I just try not to step on them, okay? These are 21st century learners. Look at the year there, right? 21st century learners. These guys are now seniors in college, which is crazy. One of the other jobs I had was that of a DJ. And part of this talk, I'm going to talk about how good teachers can also make good DJs. Because one of the things I learned being a DJ is you have to inspire and engage your audience. Does that sound familiar, teachers? We have to do the same things every day. And so, as a teacher or a DJ, yes, and I had 2 Twitter handles, I had to make sure that I was controlling the environment of the room, but also making sure that the playlist of learning, if you will, was ready for each and every kid in my classroom. And it was always different, you know? The audiences were different. Sometimes when I was DJing, they would turn their backs on me and walk away. Sometimes as a teacher, kids would get excited. You'd see their faces light up, and I knew right away that I'd hit the right note with them. And it's incredible to think about that nowadays. I don't DJ anymore, mind you, but this was one of the images that I dreaded as a DJ. The empty dance floor. You played that stinker of a song and everybody's left. They hit the bar, right? They're not coming back out there. In your classroom, it's sort of the same way, only hopefully they're not going to the bar. Your classroom, you look out there, you've done that lesson that just bombed, and you look out, maybe not at empty desks, but maybe empty stares, empty minds, empty looks, right? You realize that you haven't brought them back. And speaking of minds, they have to have some level of movement, right? The average age of a kid should be about the amount of time it takes for them to have a transition change in minutes. So if a 6-year-old, you should be transitioning about every 6 minutes. You need to think about that. In your classroom, how often are you doing a transition of some sort of movement? And a lot of times with the DJ, it helps to have really good music, right? Bringing them out on stage. And if we don't have that music, can we cue up the music? Do we have loud music? Can we get the crowd excited here? Oh, we don't have our music? Well, that's going to make it really interesting. That means I'm going to have to rap in front of everybody. That could be really embarrassing here in a second. But having that key music to actually get kids up and moving, it's an important thing. And a lot of times what we do is, there's these things called Go Noodle. Have you guys heard of that? Having those brain breaks is an important thing. So maybe you're doing a little, sprinkler, or maybe a little grocery shopping, getting them up and dancing. It's all a good thing. But then there's times when you have to slow it down in your classroom. And you have to have that partnership of learning. Small group collaboration. Make sure you're at least 6 inches apart, okay? You know what I'm saying. So getting kids to work together and collaborate together is also a part of every classroom. And it changes. Sometimes it could be that you need that conformity, that moment, that line dance moment, like when you have the Cupid shuffle. You know what I'm talking about? Getting the kids to kind of march in line at the same place. I always struggle with this as a teacher, is getting kids to walk down the hallway in a straight line. It was never anything that ever worked or was successful for me, but I tried it over and over again. But I knew that each kid was different too. Take this kid here, he's a country music fan. Maybe his toy truck broke down, or his dog ate his homework and died. But you still know that he had that emotion when he came into the classroom, and you needed to figure out how to reach him as well. And it was different for every kid. But then there's that moment where it's a little bit softer now, a little bit softer now, a little bit softer now. And you know that testing season comes, and you have to have everyone quiet, because you have to figure out how to fill in the bubbles, not fill in their mind. And how different that could be. You need to force feed content kind of down their throats and hope that it doesn't make them pass out. Much like my daughter here, who I can't look at because I'll start crying right now on stage. See? You don't want kids with that same reaction, right? You want them to be excited. You don't want them passing out. You want them to be able to say, hey! And it gets them excited again. It gets them engaged back into what the learning is and what's happening in the classroom. And it makes it all part of that fun learning environment. Now, as a DJ, I used to pre-assess my bride and groom. I would send them a Google Doc. This is an actual Google Doc pre-assessment of what I wanted them to hear and listen to, right? And so they have different types of songs and different genres that they want to listen to. Well, students are the same way. You know, we have all different sorts of flavors in our classroom. We need to be able to pre-assess what kids are when they walk into our rooms too, right? Figure out what makes them classroom versus how fast are they leaving your room. Thank you. Have a great day.
Is founded on creativity and cannot exist without it. So creativity is not art and it's not fluff. In today's complex, crazy, global, connected world, we need students who are able to think and act differently so that they can embrace that change and help us succeed. In order to cultivate creativity, we need to, number one, cultivate it in ourselves. That's walk the walk. If you're not modeling, your kids are going to see right through that. And in order to cultivate creativity in our students, it's not a checklist or a task or a lesson plan that we can do. We need to cultivate a classroom culture that lets them be creative and ask them to be that way. So this isn't really for the creative people out there. You probably already live this. But not every one of us is creative or feels that way. But everyone in this audience has creative capacity. Everyone. So step one, you need to believe you can. Now step two, you might need to give yourself permission to do it. Creativity does love constraints because they can often help us think differently. But in order for truly divergent thinking and creativity to emerge, we have to sometimes break the rules or let them go some of the time. Now, the biggest predictor of a person
is a failure of mine where I fought the machine and the machine won. This is when I used a laser cutter and the laser cutter didn't have the ventilation on and it was just a melted mess. And of course it happened in the middle of a class. So I learned to always keep track of what I was doing. So why does this matter? Why is it important to learn how to fail? Failure can teach us life skills. It can teach us grit. It can help us develop a growth mindset. And it can help us build resilience. Angela Duckworth said in her TED Talk about grit, grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. And we know that learning doesn't end at the end of the day or when you graduate from school. We want our students to be lifelong learners, right? And this grit, this idea of grit can help students to be lifelong learners. It can help them to develop long-term goals and attain them and keep going even when it's difficult.
Speakers, the keynotes, they told us we need to change, but it starts with us. It starts with you. So you've seen these images and everyone shakes their heads and thinks, oh, the poor kids who have to learn like that. And then we pat ourselves in the back and we think, oh, I'm good. I have a beanbag chair in my room, so I'm cool, right? But it's more than that. It's more than furniture. You can't just buy Febreze and throw a beanbag in the corner. Are you still doing all of the talking? Do you still have a front of the room? Well, sit down and shut up. You already have a job. Let those kids talk. This coffee shop model is a great one for us to follow. Can you imagine if learning could take off the way coffee houses have? Do you know how many we have in the US now? Over 50,000. And there's good reason for that. I bet you visited a coffee house, if not this morning, at least sometime this week. And when you were there, what did you notice? You noticed some soft lighting, you noticed probably a buzz, around the room. I know we're in Denver, but we also probably noticed options. There's options where you can sit. You can sit on a couch, you can sit at a table, you can sit by yourself, you can sit with others. We need to have this in our classrooms as well. We should have caves where kids can work alone or camps where they can work together. We need to also offer our children opportunity. When I'm in a coffee shop, I do what I want, and as soon as my time is up, I check my watch and I'm so upset. I'm like, what? I feel cheated, and I complain that it's time to go. We should have our students doing the same. They should complain when it's recess time or when it's time to come home, because they should be so engaged. In our classrooms, if we let students decide what is on, they will tune in. If you're just dishing out things and letting them listen as well, that's not going to do it. You need to have passion in your teaching and let your students have passion in their learning. I found out I was passionate about technology along the way of my 16 years of teaching, and I started a future club. The students that I work with know I am giddy over this club, and I know what they're giddy over. I need to use some teamwork. I told you I was from Northern Ohio, okay? I had to put LeBron on there. I know.
So you need to encourage this teamwork in your classrooms. When you're at a coffee shop, you'll see that it's branded, right? Starbucks, you've seen that everyone knows what that symbol means. Brand your classroom. Cell phones should be out and on. Don't let them, and this is devices too, if you're working with little kids. Right, because these devices cross oceans and connect our world. Don't take that away from kids. How do you feel when someone takes your phone away? I know I feel terrible, but give it back. We need to practice authenticity. We want kids to feel safe in our classroom. When I go into a coffee shop, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but they know my order. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, you got the latte, large, great. We should know our kids that well also. We should also be practicing e-reading. Get over the nostalgia. Yes, a book feels great in your hands, and I get it. But you know what also feels great in your hands? My cell phone, which connects me to the world and has thousands and millions of books. Coding should be in classrooms. It's in your coffee shop. I bet that cash register app is run on a code. It needs to be in classrooms, and it's not the future, it's now. We need to be teaching coding now, and don't just do hour of code, go beyond that. You need to be having some sort of station in your classroom for creation. If you don't have a maker space yet, throw some cardboard in a corner and boom, you've got one. Great things were made in coffee shops. Have you guys ever heard of Harry Potter? Gaming. You should allow gaming in your classroom. One, it kind of gives you a break because the kids are so obsessed, right? But also, they're learning important things in gaming. They're learning to try again until they succeed. And they can even create those games now. Don't block sites. And if it's not up to you, it's up to your administrator, talk to them about how silly this is. When I'm in a coffee shop, I can do whatever I want. It's amazing. I don't bring my kids. Teach kids, don't block. So how do you do this? How do you turn your classroom into a coffee shop? Just make that choice. There are so many options to help you that you just need to take that first step. That's the most important thing. Try something, fail, do it again. And I just want to leave you with a couple of these quotes that you need to do one thing every day that scares you. Teach your kids that as well. Go after it and go boldly and make your classroom look like a coffee shop. Thank you.
That their story can change if they wanted to, and then give them the right tools to do so. Tech is amazing. I mean, yet Michio Kaku even proved that in his keynote, but tech can't do our job. Tech can't get to know every one of our kids and tailor learning to them. We get to do that, and that is the best job. And so the solution to the single-story problem in schools today is technology plus us. Don't use technology because it's cool. Use it because they deserve a better story. Use it thoughtfully. Use your expertise. And say to your students come fall, sweet, amazing student, you have the power to change your story. And let's get started today. Thank you.
Louisiana, and I had the honor to teach Eric and Eric. Little Eric was an 11-year-old who wanted to be a scientist when he grew up. Big Eric, he'd been held back 3 times and simply wanted to feel safe enough to grow up. My challenge, finding a way to reach them both. And that year, our school received our first set of 6 computers. What I saw as students crowded around that screen was an amazing opportunity to help all my students learn to love learning. So while my fellow teachers would talk about their classrooms using words like rigorous and challenging, I realized that for students like Big Eric, challenging is what his everyday life was like, and I needed a better mantra. And so I decided my classroom would be a place of wonder. Not the kind of wonder where I run around in a superhero suit trying to save my students from the world. That would be bad for them and kind of for me too. Instead, I wanted to build a place where students could appreciate this amazing world we live in and all the mysteries it holds. Where they can experience beauty and fascination in their everyday surroundings. I wanted a place to explore questions where the answers weren't found in the back of the book. And I wanted to find ways to build pathways that didn't end in an endless stream of worksheets. Throughout the years, I've tried to keep wonder as a central theme in my work. And so I wonder, how do we help students develop a sense of wonder in your classrooms? Instead of telling you how, I want to show you from my current work in St. Vrain Valley School District here in Colorado.
Education was that calm. Okay, we're going to move on now. Sometimes I like talking, sometimes I don't. Yes.
It may just be where I'm sitting. Are both your microphones on?
They might be. Testing? Yes, they are. The name of the plate. If I were to click on one of these red placeholders or place markers, it would tell me what's there. So if there's an earthquake, when that placeholder was added, and then also the latitude and longitude of that point. These are arrows that are drawn that are demonstrating. What are these arrows demonstrating? Good. So the movement of the plates. So just based on this example alone, how do you see using this with students, with your students?
Alright, it's obvious that I've been lagging on the vlogs the last 2 days, only because it's just been a sheer amount of things that have been going on, and so this is actually day 4 of ISTE, and it's been such an incredible experience thus far. Today we went to the expo hall in the morning. We actually waited outside till it opened, and it's just interesting to see people sitting on the floor and sitting next to an outlet and plugging in their devices, and you know, just waiting for the convention to open. The reason why we waited, we wanted to get into the convention center really early today, is because of the pilot pens booth, and you know, teachers and their pens, and they were giving out free swag, so we wanted to really take them up on it. And if you think about it, pens are like very low tech, and it's kind of cool that Pilot, the brand Pilot, actually is a part of the convention, and so they gave us a lot of pen swag, which is something teachers are really into. Things that I learned today: I went to a session that dealt with historical digital maps and how to use them in the classroom, and the presenters were absolutely amazing. They gave us a strategy that combines low tech with high tech, but I learned that maybe sometimes low tech can be more meaningful and can yield more meaningful results if used appropriately and if used meaningfully and purposefully. And so in that session, as you could see in the video before, the presenters used primary sources, and they gave us a chance to kind of analyze these primary sources to come up with a use critical thinking to come up with a solution. And so that was probably one of the best sessions that I've attended at ISTE so far. And then I went to finally able to attend an Ignite session, which was something that I missed out on last year. And Ignite basically is like 11 presenters. They only have 20 minutes each, and they only have they only have 20 slides, and then 5 minutes each to get their point across, which is a pretty you know, nerve-wracking platform to take part in terms of presentation, but it's really effective. One of the really good presenters that I was able to see was this guy named Carl Hooker, and the title of his presentation was Teachers Make Good DJs, and he just was so engaging and had you know, really good insights about being a DJ and being a classroom teacher, and the things that, you know, make those two worlds the same. He had us hooked for sure during those 5 minutes that he had presenting. There are a lot of other presenters out of the 11 that did really awesome, and Ignite it doesn't disappoint. So if you ever go to ISTE, please catch their Ignite sessions. I believe there's always 3 of them. There's 3 Ignite sessions during the conference. So hopefully the footage that I got will help you to see the awesomeness of ISTE Ignite. And then basically the message that I got from that, or just reflecting back, is that in terms of engagement, Simple Tech really does the job well. And Simple Tech Plus combined with a good message. That's why teachers are so important, because even if you throw a bunch of high technology at students and tell them, hey, go build a mountain, they can't do it without structured and purposeful teaching. So we teachers really are the silver bullet. It cannot be all these high-tech things that we've seen or that are coming out very soon. It actually starts with us. And so when you go to Ignite, or when you go to these presentations, the most engaging ones are the ones that have a really good message and that speak to the truth of teaching. And good teaching equals good students and good results. And so that's really what I took back from today's. Anyway, there is one more vlog left. There is only one more day of ISTE left, so hopefully it'll be just as amazing as the last 4 days. And so this is the end of vlog number 4.